Hi, I'm Dr. Jeremy Thompson. In the last video we talked about the mixed bag concept, a confused way of looking at yourself that causes a lot of problems for you as a person, but also in your relationships with other people. So we looked at it like this. Your pluses and your minuses, your good characteristics and your not so good characteristics, your favourable traits and your unfavourable traits all kind of mixed up together. It makes it hard for you in your own life to be clear about who you are as a person and to be clear about the direction that you want to go in your life, and also creates problems in your relationships. Now, today I'm going to talk about what I call positive-centered psychology, which is a new, different way of looking at yourself, which is much more effective. I've used it with patients and I've helped them to change the way they see themselves from being all mixed up like this to having a much better view of themselves, and it's been very helpful for them. The way they have been able to see themselves is more like this. I'm sorry these circles aren't all that good, but that fundamentally the positive aspects of them, the positive qualities, have a much more fundamentally central place in their whole view of themselves. Whereas the negative qualities, the attributes that they're not too happy about, are actually more learned habits that have got into their headspace sometime during their development, perhaps in their early life, childhood and so on, and they see them out on the side there. I mentioned before that there's almost two groups of patients that we see. There are the people that really seem to have their lives together and they're quite happy and positive and productive in life, and don't need to come and see us for much help because they've got their lives under control. Now, these people actually already see themselves in this way. Often they're a little unaware of it, but this is it. They see themselves as a fundamentally good person, that a collection of positive abilities and talents and attributes, these make up the substance of who they are as a person. Now, they know that they're not perfect. They know they've got some areas of sensitivity. They might have, for instance, perhaps a bit of a bad habit of getting overly aggressive at times. Now, I've drawn this in quite a simplistic way because I actually believe that in life it makes it better for you if you can simplify things, because then it's easier to act properly. But some of these qualities, for instance, just say we're looking at something like aggression. Now, even if you feel that that's a habit that you have, there may be positive and negative aspects to that. So, for instance, you might see that it's bad to be violent and abusive and aggressive and shout at people. You might quite rightly recognise that those are not healthy, productive ways to be. But on the other hand, part of that might be that you're not going to lie down and let people walk all over you. So you have a positive quality that you have the ability to stand up for yourself. So in many attributes it's a bit like that. You can find the positive aspects of them and separate them from the negatives. Another example might be that some people might have a lot of anxiety and see that that is a big minus. Well, I wouldn't always see it that way. People who are anxious are often quite sensitive. They're quite intuitive. It can be bad to be oversensitive because it might stop you from doing things that would otherwise be good for you. But on the other hand, there are some good aspects to it. If you've got the positive quality of being sensitive and intuitive, you can read things in people. You can pick up vibes that actually help you to form good relationships and save yourself getting yourself into trouble with people. So this is a simplistic view, but within it, it has a substance there that can help you identify with this true part of you. Now, at the end of the day, life is about facing situations and hopefully coming up with the right helpful, productive actions to put into place to deal with those situations. You want in your life to be making your actions coming from your true positive self, the core part of who you are. You don't want this negative side over on the left there to be making your decisions for you. People who see themselves as mixed bags, however, they're in a difficult position because they unfortunately don't see themselves this way. It feels to them like the minuses are all tied up within themselves. It's a little bit like if you think of a cancer. No one would like to have a cancer. Why not? Because once the cancer gets into you, it kind of spreads and infiltrates. It gets all through you. It's very hard to attack it and fight it off and get rid of it. That's why we're all afraid of it. When you see yourself as a mixed bag, the sense of your negative characteristics is a bit like that they get entwined within you, and it's very hard for you to access and centre yourself on this good person that I believe that people truly are. So this is a much better way for people to see themselves, and it helps them to be much more productive in their lives, and it helps them to get on with other people as well, because they're able to see other people with the same view, and so they can separate out any behaviours that they would see as a bit off-putting in the other person and not get caught up in it. And yet at the same time they can appeal to the positive side of that person, so that they can form a relationship with that side of them, while at the same time standing up to any negative behaviours that they don't like, but doing it in a calm and balanced way. Just one other point there, in this diagram you might notice there's this little section in the middle. Well, I've got that there because sometimes it's actually a bit hard to tell, you know, what you would decide you see as a positive attribute versus a negative one, so it's in there for that reason. And also, in fact, every now and then people do inherit what people might see as a negative quality, such as a genetic predisposition for getting schizophrenia or diabetes, something like that. The main point, however, is that those areas are actually very unusual. Only a very minority of the patients that I've seen over my time have major problems with that type of thing. By far their greatest problem for them is seeing themselves as that mixed bag, where all these minuses and negative patterns of thinking are stuck in the way they view themselves. And so the main purpose of the positive centre psychology is for people to be able to centre themselves on the true person that they really are. That way it's much easier to deal with those negatives, seeing them out there on the side there, and that they really have no business being in your headspace, and it makes you much stronger in the way that you can deal with them and put them aside. And this is what makes it easier to resolve issues relating to anxiety or depression, and also to help with your relationship problems. Now, is this a reasonable way for people to look at themselves? Is this a realistic self-perception for people to have? Well, I believe that it is. I believe that we should, and we're quite right, in seeing ourselves as being fundamentally good human beings, as being good people. We've evolved over millions of years where it's been survival of the fittest. The weakest have presumably died out and the strongest have survived. There's all number of positive talents that a human being can have and can be born with, and when a new child is born into the world they don't know what those talents are going to be. But everybody can rest assured that they haven't made it this far in evolution over 1 million years to have reached it to today's age unless they've inherited some powerful qualities from their parents. Now, I see this in my surgery, and one of the most evident things that I notice about babies and toddlers is the positive sense of mind that they have. They might be miserable, by the way. They'll cry and be in pain, or if they're tired or hungry, these things will make them upset and behave with suffering and misery. But if you take out those factors, children by and large are pretty happy. New babies, if they don't have any of those problems going on, they generally just sleep most of the time and they're pretty happy. When they start waking up to the world as they get older, they're actually very positively interested in it. As soon as they can look, they look around, they'll feel and touch things. As soon as they can move, they start crawling with great purpose and determination. They're actually very adventurous and very positive. And I don't think it's surprising that we've actually got these inbuilt positives within us. If you look at the evolution of mankind, it's been man's adventurousness and his determination to get out there and make change that has helped us to survive and be the species that we are today. And so, to my mind, human beings, we have these positive qualities that are within us. Now, what is our role as parents when we bring up children? Well, I think there's just one really fundamental thing. That at the end of the day, when our kids have finally finished all the parenting that we can give them, and they've finished school, and they're about to head out into the adult world, we don't want them to be mixed bags. We want them to grow up and know who they are. We want them to have a sense of the things that they like and the things that they don't like. We want them to know the things that they have a natural affinity towards, so that they can put all that together and say, yes, this is me, and therefore this is the direction that I want to try and go in life. If they can see themselves this way, then they're a lot stronger. Now, life is not always easy. People make mistakes. if you can center yourself on this positive person that you are here, it's not so difficult to deal with the mistakes that you make in life, because you see them as being separate as to who you are. People might make a criticism of something that you've done. Well, that's okay too, because you can look at that and say, yeah, well, I know that I'm not perfect. I know that I have these problem areas, and that's great, because now I can learn from that. Hopefully I can get rid of this bad habit, which I didn't even realise that I had, by the way. Unfortunately, of course, people who see themselves as in the mixed bag, they don't like people focusing on any of their negatives or their mistakes. So therefore they're very sensitive to criticism. They'd rather not hear it at all, or they'll react with hostility. So as a result of that, they tend to keep these negatives within them in the mixed bag concept. So all of these things are great problems if you see yourself in the mixed bag way. On the other hand, if you can use the positive centered approach, it gives you a perspective that you can use to center yourself and try and get your life directed by this true person as to who you are. Now, how in practice do you actually go about changing then from seeing yourself as a mixed bag to using positive centered psychology? Well, that's what we'll talk about in the next video. But I can tell you now that we can do it by looking at your past, looking at your present, and the vibes that you're feeling now in your life, the ups and downs of your day-to-day life, and also your aspirations for the future. In all these areas of your life, there are clues as to who you really are. And by getting in touch with those factors, you can start to identify yourself. Once you've done that, you're much stronger. You do get less anxiety, you do get less depression. You'll find it easier to have relationships with other people, and you'll have a much more balanced way of being able to live your life.